You are now listening to Asking for a Friend with TalkDoc, sharing insights through real, honest, and practical ways to improve your communication and relationships. Featuring your hosts, Dr. Pamela Kreiser, Meredith Edwards-Nagel, and Taylor Polindo.
We are back, 2024, Season 4.
2024, Season 4.
How about that? That's crazy that we're still around.
No, it's not. We have a good time.
We have great listeners. That's all of you. We appreciate you so much.
Yes, thank you. Speaking of which, you listeners should hit us up. You could email us at hello@afafpodcast.com or just go ahead and slide into our DMs.
Girl.
That sounded quite familiar, Taylor.
AFAF.podcast.
And
Yep.
yeah, you should let us know your thoughts. Tell us what you want us to talk about. What do you want to learn about? And if you have questions or topics you want covered, hello, I need some help. We have the TalkDoc. That's what she's here to do. She's helping.
That's right. We're here to talk about it.
What we also want to talk about is tomorrow.
Oh, no.
Dun, dun.
What's tomorrow?
Tomorrow's Valentine's Day.
I wore my red shirt.
Oh, just for us.
And you two wore black, and that just says a lot about our state of mind.
Anyway, tomorrow is Valentine's Day. We want to get into if anyone has an undefined relationship. Maybe you find yourself in something like a situationship. So we want to start with what even a situationship is. A situationship is a romantic and or sexual relationship that is non-committal, first of all. No agreed definition. People that are in these situationships, they're definitely not just friends, but they're definitely not committed to one another.
Really.
Okay. Friends with benefits. That's the other name for it, right? Okay.
Yes.
But it's maybe a little bit more than that because that's purely physical, right? Where this is, they probably like each other in a romantic way,
Okay.
but they just have
Yeah.
no communication, no understanding, no boundary at the
Like-
question marks.
No, I think
So they don't listen to our podcast.
Yeah, I would disagree that a situationship is a lot of question marks. I think
Okay.
typically they don't discuss it intentionally. I think people sometimes are just like, it's a friends with benefits. What do we need to talk about?
So the point is not to define the relationship.
Yeah, not defined.
Okay. It could be in a lot of different forms then. For some people, it could be more romantic. Other people could be meeting up now and then. It could be any
I'd
of those
say-
things.
Yes.
So that's interesting to me.
Yeah.
Now, some people will approach this Valentine's holiday and they will say, I don't know what kind of relationship I'm in. This sounds like this would be tricky. Do you celebrate Valentine's if you're in a situationship?
Lots of question marks.
Huh?
This is just so confusing to me.
But
Someone
Taylor, you
that's
don't
a
even
fan of
celebrate
these things.
Valentine's.
I celebrate it in a non-traditional way.
Oh, wait, tell me what you do again. I hear it every year, but just once a year.
So my husband will take out someone, I'll take out someone else because we felt like we go on dates all the time and didn't need a holiday to celebrate the two of us. We'd rather spend it with someone who maybe is not enjoying the holiday and would like
Got it.
to date someone great like me and my husband. Weird. It's not weird. Meredith went out with Ralph. She had a great time.
No,
Yeah,
my
you
cousin did. He took my cousin and I out before. Each
So
separate
you're in a
years.
situationship with Ralph?
No, definitely not that. This is getting really weird really fast. No, they basically just do something nice. Take somebody out that's single and take them to dinner or something that they like to do. And it was fun.
Because one of the downsides that kind of addresses is this idea that everybody has to have somebody to be complete or to be recognized on this holiday, right?
Mm-hmm.
This episode is not about how you have to be in a relationship, but we will be talking about relationships with the understanding that people need to do what they need to do.
Yeah. I think that's interesting. You say, do you celebrate Valentine's if you're in a situationship? To celebrate a holiday like this, culturally, doesn't there need to be some sort of definition of a relationship?
I don't think so. I think you buy some lingerie and there's a lot of celebration happening. And I don't think you have to have any
Okay.
conversation about it.
No, I
Just
think a lot of people
thought.
do try to figure out where their relationship is because of the holiday. I do think that. You start getting into expectations, right? So you start getting into this problem like, oh, so if we're a thing, dating officially or dating exclusively or whatever it is, maybe we should figure that out so that I know what kind of gift or not gift to bring or what kind of experience to bring into this. And that I think is a tricky part.
Yeah, I think anything where you're unclear, like me personally, I'm just uncomfortable. Clarity is kindness. I just want to know, are you doing something so I can make my decisions for myself?
What about you, Mary? Do you celebrate Valentine's?
It's funny. I already feel like it's a little early to refer to this, but that TED Talk that we listened to by Dr. Joanne Davilla, I have never thought of having someone I'm dating felt like they've needed to read my mind, especially on a holiday like this.
Mm-hmm.
So I usually just felt pretty comfortable being like, this is what I want to do. What do you want to do? This is what I don't want. I'm on a budget this year, so can we not? I think when I really celebrated this was like in 6th grade.
What's so funny, I feel like it was so much more fun as a kid, and that was way before any romance. Making cards for everyone, telling people you love them. I loved Valentine's Day as a kid, and then it wasn't till later with expectations and pressures that it became this, either you feel left out or nothing's enough, whatever your experience is with it. It's so funny when you had no pressure on any of that.
Mm-hmm. Bring back the candies
It was
for
so
all the
fun.
friends. Yeah.
Well, I think given the history, I think it makes a lot of sense to start with a quiz right here.
Oh, Jesus. What kind of quiz are you going to do for Valentine's? That's what
I'm going to do a Valentine's quiz, of course. It has a little history in it. You ready?
Whatever happens, I'm going to win.
Okay. This is the first quiz of 2024, and we are keeping score in 24.
Ooh.
Uh-huh. We're keeping score. You're welcome.
I felt like you really thought about that before you said it, which made me happy.
All right, first question. What is the origin of Valentine's Day? Multiple choice. Ancient Roman festival, Chinese New Year, Egyptian harvest celebration, or Greek mythology?
Greek mythology.
Chinese New Year.
You both get it wrong. It's Ancient Roman festival. Starting off strong in 24. Okay, next question. In which century did the tradition of exchanging Valentine's Day cards begin? This is what made me think of doing the quiz. Which century? The 12th century, the 18th century, 20th century, or 15th century? So it's 12th, 18th, 20th, 15th.
18th.
Okay.
20.
Teighlor, you're correct. 18th century.
I was trying to think when paper was invented.
That was your go-to on that?
That was my thought process. Well, it can't be that early.
Okay, so what is the estimated average amount spent on Valentine's Day gifts in the United States? Whoever's closest.
$98.
You said average?
Average amount.
$150.
Teighlor wins the quiz. The average is $75 to $100.
I feel so cheap. I don't spend that much money.
Yeah, so this is not a reminder to go spend more money.
Trader Joe's 99-cent Valentine's Day cards. They're great.
You know what I miss? I miss those little sweethearts. Those little hearts where they have little messages. Now, are we surprised that TalkDoc wants messages on a candy, even as a small child? We're not surprised at that.
She's like, communication and sweets?
I was early on headed for this career.
So do you like what they say or how they taste or the combo that it's candy and a message?
I just like what they say. I always thought it was fun to put a cool one on a Valentine's. Exactly. I did like Valentine's as a kid for sure.
I feel like the candy hearts are like Peeps during Easter time. That's how I feel about it.
But they're necessary, right? They're just part of the holiday.
Those are ingrained in me as a part of sharing Valentine's. I like the friend theme.
Friend and appreciation, for sure.
Okay. But are we going to go back to the situationship? What do you do if you are in that? Now we're approaching Valentine's Day. Meredith, can you rank them as good or bad, or they just are?
Situationships?
Yeah.
If you're in one and you're already going, I don't like this because XYZ, then you need to get to the DTR of that situationship. You need to start defining it because lack of boundaries.
I think to your point that someone in a situationship wouldn't have any expectations about Valentine's Day. Because you don't have expectations about the future of your relationship either.
Yeah. It's like day by day, moment by moment, which is why I really liked that TED Talk that you sent us, Teighlor, from Dr. Joanne Davilla. She breaks up these 3 skills about relationships. The first one is insight. You learn basically what's right for you through insight.
Yeah.
For example, are you open to an open relationship or not? If you don't have insight about yourself, then maybe you should check in with yourself and see if you should really be in a situationship, or are you just following what the other person says because you want to be with them?
This is my beef with situationships. I don't think there's a problem with casual dating, but without defining, it's impossible to not have expectations, I would think. Is it okay to sleep with 10 other people or 100 other people? It's not a right or wrong, but it's a right. If you don't talk about it, you don't know. I really am not a fan of situationships. I want to know whatever you want, as long as you're not hurting someone, fine with me.
Because you like rules.
No, it's not even about rules. It's about knowing your boundary. Can I hang out with? It's just not knowing.
You don't put boundaries on the other person.
The boundary could be it's an open relationship. But as long as we had the conversation, then totally fine. So it's not really about a rule. It's just about knowing what the other person is doing. I don't know how sustainable that is.
Oh, it's not.
Zero understanding on what's okay with you and what's okay with me without having a conversation.
I'm sure we've had friends that start these and they don't even know. And then they wait for that person to say, is this okay? Can we sleep with other people? Can we not? Don't get into a situationship without even having your own insight about romantic relationships.
To your point, Meredith, I would say that idea that we would jump into any relationship and then hope in the middle of that to somehow get some insight seems like a dangerous ordering of things.
Yes, which I love that she talks about. Can we talk a little bit about 2 examples I felt like were so key in this insight?
I highly recommend listening to this because essentially, if you are single or in a situationship and you don't want to be, I feel like she pretty much gives you all the solutions.
Yeah. 3 skills. It's critical to our lives to know how to have healthy relationships. But how do we even know how to do it? Do we start when it's too late by needing therapy after we've been in something? No matter the amount of counseling, you can't make up for a bad partner choice. And the other example of that, which again was like, at first I heard it and I was like, what? For example, premarital education. It's a good concept in theory, but you've already selected and committed to this partner. What if you've learned you picked the wrong partner?
Yeah.
So how do you know yourself? That's where she's getting back to the beginning, which is you. Having 3 skills to have romantic competence, she calls it, right?
So we can learn skills to help our relationships because we all have to troubleshoot every now and then. That's what this podcast is basically.
I love that.
If you don't start with yourself before you're in the relationship, she was saying, this needs to be taught to young people and no one's teaching us. It needs to be taught early on to know yourself in these ways so that you are able to choose a good partner. Was what she was talking about.
Absolutely.
The research on this. And they report fewer depression symptoms and fewer anxiety symptoms. Young people who have romantic competence are more satisfied and happier in their relationships. Let's hope to some level you're happy and enjoying it. Suffer through.
But it's in a lot of in a lot of things we've talked about here too. We know in a relationship there's going to be conflict. There's going to be points of tension and issues and places where we need to trade our comfort for our growth in moments of communication relationships, right? But that's what's so interesting is if you do this in yourself before, then you actually have more satisfaction and more positivity overall in yourself and with a partner.
So what is the insight? It was awareness.
The 3 skills?
Yeah, insight. Can you expand on insight for me?
So the 3 skills are insight, mutuality, and emotional regulation. Insight, my interpretation of what I heard her talk about is typically learned through experience, but also just a knowing of yourself to know what's right for you in relationship or singleness.
I think of it this way, where if you think about it a whole circle and you say, okay, half of it is understanding myself and half of it is understanding you. If I haven't done the work to understand myself, I don't understand the whole circle.
Yeah, that's a really good image to put that way. I took that in the sense of my younger self and in conversations I've had with people in my life, you enter in these undefined things in dating. You wait for that other person to tell you what it is you're in or you're not in, and you just go with it because you don't know. You don't have your own insight. For me, I feel like I have done that because I didn't have the insight for myself. What do I even want right now? Am I okay with this being open? Am I engaging something with somebody that wants it to be open, but I don't? Insight is really key. So that's the first skill. Teighlor, did you want to expand more on that one?
It's why you do what you do. But yeah, knowing yourself, understanding, learning. And to me, it speaks of our boundary series. You have to know what you want before you can communicate that to someone else. You learn that through dating. But in our red flag series, we talked about people who start too young and don't have the tools to date properly, and they get into unhealthy cycles. And then that affects their ability to choose proper relationships later on in life. So with this, she says you need to start really young. And I'm thinking with my kids, like, how do I raise them to be very insightful and know themselves, what's good for them, what's bad for them?
I love that, Teighlor. For those of you listening that have kids you're shaping in your household, think of them as future relationship partners.
Yeah. And we talked about in that red flag series, right? A lot of what kids, how they choose in relationships later is based on what they see from their parents if they start dating at a young age. And that's scary because they don't have the full brain yet. And so they're making all these decisions. And it's shaping the rest of their life in a big way. So yeah, that's what stood out to me on Insight. I love that. Start with yourself.
So she talks about mutuality.
I understood her definition of mutuality as essentially both parties have needs and both of those needs matter.
Balancing my need and your need.
Yeah, and how you move through the relationship, both people, if it's a monogamous relationship, need to have an understanding that both of those opinions matter. And it helps you move forward or separate based off of some of those decisions. Okay, this is a need I have. Another person can say, I don't align with that need, and my need matters too.
This is more about acknowledging your partner's need and saying that's going to be equally as important as my need.
Yes.
In this moment, right? So working through that as opposed to saying, I'm just here to get all my needs met and you don't get anything, or we just don't align. So we're going to live these separate lives.
And I felt mutuality is different than compromise, right?
Yeah.
Were you going to say something on that, Teighlor?
No, I agree with you. But I think it's also just the ability to communicate those needs. So she talked about it being a clear, direct fashion, then that would increase their likelihood of having everyone's needs met.
So they don't listen to our podcast. And I can't remember the exact example that she gave in the TED Talk, but I was thinking about mutuality, thinking that it's really a win in that way. It's me acknowledging, hey, relationship partner, you need exercise every day. That's just part of what you need in your life. And so we're going to adapt to my need to have social time together and make sure both of those things happen, as opposed to saying, no, you're not going to work out. We are doing my social thing, but figuring out a way for both needs to be met in a respectful kind of way. So then to answer your question, it's not really a compromise because we're not losing anything.
Yes. Thank you for clearing that up. I just was, when I first heard it, I was like, it's not compromise.
So if you know yourself and you know your needs, and then mutuality, you know how to express those needs and understand that the other partner has needs, I feel like you would get to the understanding that this one person isn't going to fulfill all my needs.
Yeah, I think you would. But what's overarching here for me is this large sense of understanding self. And her point is you got to do this work and figure out more about yourself before you jump into these relationships, because that's going to be crucial to having and maintaining a healthy relationship.
Yeah. Yeah, because if you can't make yourself happy, I don't know how anyone else is going to make you happy.
So easy to jump into stuff like that, though.
It is.
When you're searching for your happiness, to look for it in a dating person. But then how quickly I feel like we get disappointed when they don't make us happy.
Right.
Yeah.
But if you focus on needs, you have a better probability of getting to happiness. Both parties are getting their needs met. You have a long-term, a way better plan than, oh, I'm just happy with you and I have a nice feeling. Yeah, I'd say deeper and more acknowledging of this other human.
And I think you'll just have a longer relationship.
Yeah, true.
If we're honest. If you figure this stuff out, your relationship may go farther and be more
Yeah.
enjoyable. Okay,
It's
so
true.
what was the last one?
Emotion regulation.
So it's important to do this tool, emotion regulation. It's what I'm hearing.
But I thought the best thing in that one was tolerate uncomfortable feelings and not act on them.
Yeah. Okay, so emotion regulation essentially is basically the skill to control your emotions when unpleasantness or just any high emotion happens. It's your ability to regulate yourself and not have those outbursts, right?
I think so.
Yeah. Because this is something I'm always trying to teach my kid. You have this very big feeling, but throwing something is maybe not the most appropriate thing right now. This is hard.
That's a big parenting thing, Teighlor.
I feel like I'm not an expert in this area. If I can't stay calm right now, how am I asking this tiny little person to stay calm? So this is what I find most difficult about parenting.
Yeah, so the impulse is what we're trying to control. In instances where we're uncomfortable, the easy way out is to just express it or to attack. And the hard way is going to not be acting on them.
And a little bit of grace for those of you who can't do this. I've been told that it's something that you mimic from what you experienced as a child. So
yeah.
a lot of this, I know it in my head, but that's not my natural go-to. So we talked about in dating, sometimes what you witnessed as a child will affect you. This is one of those things that may be a bit easier for some people. And you may ask yourself, why is this so hard? I'm with you. Give yourself some grace. We're still trying.
Not an out, though.
No, absolutely.
I think it's sometimes the easy way out. Because I think sometimes that's just what I was used to. So that's just the way I am.
Yeah,
like,
not an
well,
excuse and
well,
not blaming someone for
yeah.
what you're doing now as an adult.
You made me do that because, I think knowing that it almost is like a circle back to insight for me of, okay, have better insight about myself.
Yeah.
And then I can move through this and get to regulating that emotion better and understanding that, not just reverting back to, that's how it was for me before.
Yeah. I think harder to do than to talk about, right?
Why even bother being in relationships if it's this much work?
Yeah, so the podcast is over because we're just, you know what? Those relationships are too hard.
Yeah.
So we're going to have a really short season.
May I ask you ladies why you chose to be in a long-term relationship?
Wow. Good Valentine's question.
Wow.
You go first, Dr. K.
I have been in one almost 35 years. Let's see. Why did we choose to be in a relationship? Oh, I know. Because we had awareness. We were able to mutually balance each other's needs and not give each other what they deserved and act out on bad feelings.
You're reading notes right now.
Oh, no, yeah. No, that was modeled for both of us. We both came from families of 3 kids. So we have 3 kids, but I feel very blessed to have found a partner that could go the distance because we've gone a pretty far distance so far. Yeah. And the other thing I would add is sometimes I think of us as a couple and think, oh, we grew up together in a way because we met young when we were in college before we're 20. And so then you go, oh, that's pretty young to be getting into a relationship. And certainly we were immature and you make mistakes. But one of the things I think we did among all the mistakes that we've made was to grow up together. And that meant we were both learning. And have been learning. It's about continuing to think about the other person's needs. Once you're in it, continue to learn. You're in a lifelong conversation, and in that conversation, learning something every single day.
And it's
so what's your answer to Taylor's question, Meredith? Why are you in a long-term relationship? Just a bad turn on the highway?
Took a hike. She went on this.
I know. I thought that it would be harder because I wanted that, we learned and grew together thing. And then meeting, I felt like that was a really beautiful thing I'd seen people do. And so when we both met and we were older in life, it was like, could you have peace with someone when you're already the way you are? But it was back to what you were saying, though. We both want to learn. Having this attitude of learning towards each other. I think I got lucky to find somebody that wants to learn with me. Yeah. And that's that.
I like and knowing that, especially when you have a long-term relationship, talking about goals, you've got to know why.
Because I feel like going out life with somebody, it takes the load off. That's what you hope it does if it's healthy, right? It's hard enough already. And it takes some of the weight off when they're on your team and learning and in it with you. It doesn't have to hurt so bad because they're taking some of it. In that way, joy can be even bigger because you know it's with that person's carrying it with you too.
I think for me, it was always the normal thing to do. Growing up, I always pictured a spouse, but as an adult choosing it, I have a life that I wanted and work hard to make. And a big part of that is having a partner in it with me. I enjoy partnership. I don't expect us to always agree, but I think our values are aligned and we move forward towards our goals together. Well, I love partnership. That's why I chose it. Because, it does make the hard times easier and the better times even better.
One thing we could talk about here is this idea of commitment. This is something that we don't talk about a lot in our society. We have these ceremonies where we get married, but it is interesting. I was researching at Forbes magazine. They cited the number one reason that people say that they get divorced. 75% of individuals cite lack of commitment as the reason for their divorce.
That's a huge percentage.
I would think it would be infidelity or something else. And they said it did not make the top. It's lack of commitment. So let's explore that for a second. I think she's telling us what commitment is. Committed to know me, committed to know us and our needs as they're negotiated back and forth, and then committed so that I don't pay you back even when I have an uncomfortable feeling. I'm committed to you, so I'm not going to say those things that would threaten my commitment. In fact, I would show it by not saying those things. And I'm not a perfect example of this. Occasionally, I say what I'm thinking, unfortunately. Still working on it.
Guilty.
I love you all for that. That's why this is our troubleshooting, because I think we all fall short of that. Oops, it was in my head. It came out.
Can I get that back? No. We can have things we don't like or conversations that are uncomfortable or conflict, but we don't put the relationship on the table as a negotiation in that moment. We don't threaten. If I don't get my way, this is the end. And I think that is a ground rule for people to consider and say, are you threatening the whole relationship? Because that shows a lack of commitment.
But I feel like people sometimes think I was just in the heat of the moment. And then they turn around and go, you didn't stay committed to me because you wanted to leave. And that's where we're coming from. Your communication actually matters. You risked that commitment.
And you showed it. You showed that you're willing to not be committed suddenly if you don't get your way. If you break it down, it's not very defensible to say, if I don't win this argument, we're done.
Unless it's something in the red flags area.
That's different.
Yeah, that's so different.
That is.
But in my head, it's never an option. When I enter fights, that's not even on the table.
And of course, we are acknowledging there are some red flags. There's some situations where staying doesn't make sense. So we're not trying to say all relationships have to be that way.
No,
but
definitely
we
not.
could institute more levels of commitment into our daily behavior. And then that kind of changes how I see things. I think, oh, this is good for us because it's good for you.
Yeah.
I think I needed to hear that because sometimes I'll get defensive and not realize I am, even though I want what's good for that person because I need what's good for me too. But really it's about knowing, that comes back to that insight and knowing myself. Like I need to be able to communicate that in mutuality, right? I need to be able to say that without creating that inner jealous defensiveness that sometimes I can be prone to being.
And I want to just comment on your life stages because you're chasing little people around right now, both of you. Teighlor chases 2 and Meredith chases 1 at the moment. That is a stage where mutuality is so crucial.
Good point.
It's easy for us to say, I've got to get my way, your needs or whatever, like, because I'm so depleted, sleep deprived or energy, or I'm just tired of getting up again to do another diaper or whatever. And I think having a good sense of that mutuality and knowing that in this stage, it's even more important that we help each other get their needs met because it's scarce around here sometimes.
I'm glad you said that because even though I don't feel like Tom and I are in this little people stage, it's almost like a tit for tat without realizing it. And then you're like, oh, I don't like this tension I'm feeling here. Where's that coming from? That's not how we want to do this. Let's recommit to ourselves and what we need and be able to say, no, it makes me happy to see you get what you need. And I feel peace and committed back to when you give me what I need in this break or whatever.
Yeah.
No, I'm glad you brought that up.
When you get your needs met, you're going to be a better partner, better listener, better all these things.
Oh, yeah.
A committed relationship only works if both people are committed. So I feel for those people who their partner is not committed, or, you know, they want to knock anyone who's, I can't make this work, because you can only make your choices for yourself. And if you can't control someone else,
That's right.
Completely understandable why you would not want to continue a relationship with someone.
I really liked this evolution of undefined situations into how to have something healthy and why bother with it.
No, I like that too. And I think we're all on different journeys. We all have different considerations, but even the idea of talking about what's healthy for some people, maybe that's a fresh idea.
Yeah, hopefully.
So as we go into the 2024 season, we are excited. We have a lot of great topics, and we want to thank you all for being great listeners, and we're looking forward to those ideas. Send them our way so that we can customize the podcast, and we'll see you then. Once again, thank you for joining us today. Please remember to rate, share, and subscribe to our podcast. And thank you for listening to Asking for a Friend.
Let us know what you thought of the episode. Our email is hello@afafpodcast.com. This show is for educational purposes only and is copyrighted. Written permission must be granted before syndication or rebroadcasting. Thanks for listening to Asking for a Friend with TalkDoc.